The war had burned the sky red over the world called Vayara Prime. Fire and smoke rose from the broken cities, and the air smelled of dust and fear. The humans and the Vayari had fought for years, two proud races, both tired, both desperate. Among the chaos walked Captain Ethan Cross, a human soldier known for doing what others would not. He wasn't the strongest man nor the fastest, but he had courage that didn't break no matter the danger. His armor was scratched and scorched, his rifle nearly out of power. Still, he moved through the ruins, searching for survivors. "Command, this is Cross," he said into his radio. "Civilian district's gone. I'm moving deeper. There may still be people alive." Static answered him. The communication lines were broken. He was alone now. Ethan pushed forward through the fallen buildings. Every step crunched over glass and metal. His breath came slow and steady. He'd seen many battles before, but something about this world felt different. The cries of its people, not human but still so full of pain, echoed in his heart. Then he heard it. A faint sound, soft, weak, almost like a child. He froze. His human training told him to move carefully. Traps were common. But that small voice, it wasn't a soldier's cry. It was scared, helpless. Ethan followed it through a collapsed street, pushing aside burned beams and pieces of stone. At the end of a narrow passage, he found a Vayari girl, trapped under fallen debris. She looked maybe 8 or 9 years old in human terms, her skin pale blue, eyes glowing faintly silver in the dust-filled light. She was bleeding from a cut on her leg, and her breathing was shallow. When she saw him, a tall human soldier in heavy armor, her eyes widened in fear. Ethan lifted his hand slowly, showing he meant no harm. "Easy, easy, kid. I'm not here to hurt you." The girl trembled. She tried to speak, but only a broken whisper came out in her alien language. Ethan knelt beside her, checked the weight of the debris, and sighed. "Hang on, I'll get you out." He pushed against the rubble with all his strength. His armor whined, servos straining, muscles burning. Finally, the large beam shifted just enough for him to pull the girl free. She whimpered when he lifted her, her body shaking in his arms. Ethan wrapped his emergency cloak around her small frame and looked around. Explosions thundered nearby, and the city was collapsing. "Gotta move," he muttered. He carried her through the ruins, dodging falling debris and enemy fire. Vayari soldiers and human troops were fighting everywhere, but Ethan didn't care about sides anymore. The child in his arms was innocent. That was all that mattered. A human drone spotted him and hovered low. "Captain Cross, your squad is pulled back. Extraction in 2 minutes at Point Echo." "Negative," Ethan barked. "I've got a civilian." "Tell the shuttle to wait."
"Sir, that's against protocol. Then tell protocol to bite me."
The drone buzzed and flew off. Ethan kept running, his lungs burning. The girl clung to him now, weak but conscious. She whispered something, her voice melodic, strange, but full of gratitude. He couldn't understand her words, but he felt them. They reached the extraction zone, a cracked plaza covered in ash. The human shuttle was already lifting off. Ethan fired a flare into the air and yelled into his comm, "I said wait!" The shuttle paused, descended again, and its side doors opened. Ethan jumped aboard, shielding the girl as the engines roared. The pilot turned in shock. "What is that, sir?" "She's a kid," Ethan said firmly, "and she's under my protection." "Get us out of here!" The shuttle rose into the smoky sky. Below them, the city continued to burn. Ethan laid the girl on a medical seat. Her eyelids fluttered as she looked up at him. Confusion, fear, and faint hope all mixed in her silver eyes. He smiled gently. "You're safe now, okay?" "I've got you." She blinked slowly, whispering something again. He couldn't understand, but she pointed weakly to his chest, to his soldier's insignia. Then she pressed her small hand over his heart as if memorizing the symbol. That simple gesture broke something inside him. She didn't see an enemy, only someone who had helped her. The medics checked her quickly, wrapping her wounds. Ethan sat quietly beside her, his eyes distant as the shuttle returned to orbit. Hours later, he watched her being transferred to an alien relief station, a temporary truce zone managed by both sides. She turned to look at him one last time. Her lips moved, forming soft words in her native tongue. He couldn't understand them then, but he would remember the way she said them. Gentle, grateful, full of promise. Then the war pulled him away again. Years passed. Ethan fought in more battles, on more worlds. He earned medals, promotions, scars, both seen and unseen. But the memory of that little alien girl never left him. Sometimes at night, when the stars were quiet, he wondered if she had survived the chaos that followed. He hoped she had. Maybe she was safe somewhere, living in peace, far away from soldiers and war. But fate, as always, had other plans. On the far side of the galaxy, in a rebuilt Vayari city under bright twin moons, a young woman stood before a memorial. Her blue skin shimmered under the silver light. In her hand she held an old piece of metal, a small part of a human armor insignia, carefully polished over the years. It was all she had left of the man who had saved her life. Her name was Lyra now. No longer a frightened child, but a skilled pilot and explorer. The Vayari elders had told her that the human war hero who saved her had returned to his people long ago. But Lyra could never forget his face. The steady eyes, the strong hands, the warmth in his voice. She had sworn to find him again one day, to thank him not as a frightened child but as an equal. She looked up at the stars. "Ethan Cross," she whispered, "I will find you." Her ship waited at the edge of the landing bay, sleek and silver, humming softly. As the engines lit, she climbed aboard, determination burning in her heart. The stars stretched before her, vast, endless, and full of possibilities. The girl who had once been rescued was no longer helpless. Now she was the one searching, and somewhere out there, across light years and forgotten battlefields, the man who had once saved her life would soon meet her again, not as a soldier and child, but as two souls bound by fate. The evacuation transport soared above the scorched battlefield, its engines cutting through the smoky sky like a silver arrow. Inside, the cabin smelled of burnt metal, ozone, and fear. Aliens and humans alike were tense, their eyes darting to Princess Lyra, who now lay on a stretcher with faint violet light radiating from her veins. Captain Elias Kane sat beside her, one hand lightly holding hers, the other pressed against his own chest, trying to steady his rapid heartbeat. He was weak, drained by the blood transfer, but his mind was sharp. He watched her carefully. Lyra stirred, blinking as her eyes shifted from silver to a golden hue at the edges. Her breathing was steady, but every exhale seemed to shimmer with a strange energy. I feel different," she whispered, her voice trembling yet steady. "I can feel everything." Elias leaned closer. "Different good or different bad?" She tried to smile but winced as a pulse of energy ran through her body. I think it is good, strange, but good." A medic, a small Arasari woman named Tali, approached cautiously. Her hands glowed faintly as she scanned Lyra. This is beyond any medical record I have ever seen," she said, her voice shaking. "Her cellular regeneration is accelerating. She healed in minutes from a wound that would normally take days, maybe weeks." Elias raised a brow. "Minutes? That's, fast." Tali gave him a sharp look. "Fast is not the word, human. Her body is absorbing your blood. But it is more than compatibility. Her cells are changing, mutating in ways we cannot explain. She is evolving." Lyra sat up slowly, her movements fluid and precise. She flexed her fingers experimentally, then her arms, then stood on the stretcher. The violet glow faded slightly but remained around her skin. "I feel strong, faster, everything is sharper," she said, almost in disbelief. She took a step toward Elias, who moved to support her, though he was exhausted. "Yeah, humans are like that sometimes," Elias said with a tired grin. "We surprise even ourselves." Lyra's eyes narrowed, studying him. "You risked your life, your very blood, for me." "Why?" Elias shrugged. "Because someone had to, and I don't like people dying if I can stop it. Simple as that." She blinked, her gaze softening. "Humans are very strange." The transport shook as it passed through a sudden energy storm. Aliens and humans gripped their seats, but Lyra's body adapted immediately, her posture stable and her feet firm. Tali gasped. "Her balance, her reflexes, they've improved beyond Arasari limits. This is impossible." Lyra turned her head slowly. "Impossible. Maybe for others, but not for humans, it seems." Elias chuckled weakly. "You're just noticing that now?" The cabin fell silent for a moment, the hum of the engines filling the space. Then Lyra's voice, calm but commanding, cut through. "Stop the transport." "I want to stand." The pilot hesitated. "Princess, you are injured." "I am healed," she said, her voice unwavering. She rose from the stretcher gracefully as if she had never been wounded. Every movement radiated power. Even Elias, exhausted and weak, felt a twinge of awe. The transport landed on the central plateau outside the capital. News of Lyra's survival and sudden recovery had spread quickly. Crowds of soldiers, officials, and curious citizens waited to see their princess. When she stepped out, the wind blew her white hair around her face, and her eyes glowed faintly gold. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. "By the stars, she is glowing," one soldier whispered. Elias followed her closely, his body aching but his mind alert. He could see the subtle changes, her strength, her poise, even the energy that seemed to hum around her. High Council members stepped forward, their expressions a mixture of awe and fear. "Princess Lyra," one began, "your condition—" "It defies all science," Lyra turned to them, her gaze firm. "It is true. I have received the blood of a human warrior. My body has changed, healed, and grown stronger. I am alive because of him." The council members exchanged tense glances. One whispered urgently to another, "The humans, they are unpredictable." Lyra raised a hand, silencing them. "He saved me. That is enough." A sudden tremor ran through the city, mechanical engines approaching from the horizon. The Mekan collective had not given up. They were sending reinforcements, and their warships were approaching the planet's atmosphere. Elias immediately drew his weapon, his instincts kicking in despite his fatigue. "Looks like the party isn't over yet," he muttered. Lyra's eyes glowed brighter. "Then we fight," she said. She moved with incredible speed, faster than any Arisari soldier had ever moved. She grabbed a fallen energy rifle and took aim at a distant hovering drone. One shot and the drone exploded into fragments. The council gasped. "She can fight better than any of our elite warriors." Elias grinned despite himself. "Told you humans are full of surprises." Tali, the medic, moved closer to Elias, her voice low. "Captain Kane, you realize what has happened, don't you? Your blood, it has triggered a transformation. The princess is no longer the same. She is enhanced, stronger than the strongest Arisari, faster, more resilient, more aware. Your species has a unique effect on hers." Elias blinked, absorbing the words. "So, my blood just made her super?" Tali nodded slowly. "Not just super, potentially unstoppable. But that comes with risks. The transformation is unpredictable. It could change her mind, her emotions, her very being." Lyra turned toward Elias, her expression soft but intense. "Will it hurt me?" He shook his head. "Not if you control it. You're already doing better than anyone could have imagined." She studied him for a moment, then nodded. "I owe you my life. More than that. Something I cannot explain." Before Elias could respond, alarms sounded throughout the city. Mechan warships had breached the outer defenses. Missiles streaked across the sky and soldiers scrambled for cover. Elias gritted his teeth. "Looks like we get to test that new strength of yours sooner than expected." Lyra's glow intensified. She leapt from the transport to the ground, landing with the grace of a predator. Every step she took sent ripples across the dirt. She moved faster than any human or Arisari could, closing the distance to the enemy drones almost instantly. Elias followed, still carrying a rifle, but feeling his weakness more acutely. "Watch your back!" he shouted. Lyra spun, dodging a laser blast, and returned fire with precision no one thought possible. She moved almost as if she could see the trajectory of every weapon in the air, every mechanical movement of the drones. Her reflexes, her intuition. "It's like she's predicting everything," Tali muttered, barely believing her own eyes. Elias fought beside her, covering her flank and eliminating smaller threats. But it wasn't just her skill that shocked him. It was the human-like adaptability she now possessed. She didn't just react, she improvised, using every part of the battlefield to her advantage. A group of soldiers shouted at the High Council, "We are witnessing a miracle. She is invincible." Lyra turned back briefly toward Elias, a hint of a smile on her lips. "I feel alive, strong, and it is because of you." Elias, exhausted and pale, looked back. "Just glad you're still breathing." "That's my kind of miracle." The Mechan drones began retreating, unsure how to deal with her sudden transformation. Lyra moved forward, unrelenting, striking the machines with power that seemed almost magical. The violet glow around her intensified with every attack, pulsing with raw energy. Tali whispered to Elias, voice shaking, Captain Kane, she is no longer just a princess. She is something else, something beyond us. Elias nodded slowly, awe mixing with worry. Yeah, and somehow I think this is only the beginning. As the smoke cleared, Lyra stood in the middle of the battlefield, victorious. Her silver and gold eyes scanned the horizon, glowing faintly as though she could sense the approaching danger before it even arrived. Elias staggered to her side, leaning heavily on his rifle. "You feeling okay?" he asked, trying to sound casual. Lyra laughed softly, the sound like silver bells. "Better than I have ever felt in my life. You have given me more than life. You have given me power and purpose." Elias smiled faintly, chest heaving. "Humans, we just do what we can. Guess sometimes it's more than enough." The council members approached cautiously, awestruck. "Princess, what is happening to you?" one asked. She looked at them, then at Elias. "I am alive. I am stronger. And it is because of him. That is all that matters." As the sun set over the battlefield, the sky burned with red and gold. The princess, transformed, powerful, and radiant, stood with the human warrior who had given her life and changed her forever, and neither of them knew yet the full consequences of what had just happened. End of Part 2.